Hey friends, Dave again with Clockwork Guitar, here to talk about another mode. So far we've looked at natural major, natural minor, or Ionian is natural major, Aeolian is natural minor. And then we also looked at Mixolydian, which is A major mode, but it's slightly altered from natural major. So Mixolydian is major, but with a flatted seventh tone in the scale. Today we're looking at Dorian, and I'm not going through these modes in order, as you may have noticed. Mixolydian is the fifth mode, Dorian is the second mode, meaning that it's built off of the second tone of a major scale. If I was to take the C major scale, for example, and use the exact same notes, but start it on D, or make D home, but use those same notes from C major, I would get D Dorian, okay? And once again, I like to relate D Dorian not back to C major, but back to D minor. And the reason I'm relating D Dorian back to D minor, or comparing it and contrasting it to D minor, is because Dorian is a minor mode. The one chord built naturally using the Dorian scale gives you a minor chord, okay? Now we could go through and we could build triads off of each one of these notes in Dorian. I'm not going to do that. We'll just, again, talk about the scale and then highlight some of the big things that change from natural minor to Dorian, okay? So, might as well stick with D. D is our root. Now, when we talk about natural minor, we already talked about natural minor. Let's go over that scale one more time. It's a whole step to 2, half step to 3, whole step to 4, whole step to 5, half step to 6, whole step to 7, whole step back to 1. Okay? So we have a half step between 2 and 3, and a half step between 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. To play it to 2 octaves. And yeah, those half steps really give the fundamental sound of the scale. Okay? That's natural minor. Now Dorian alters that slightly, just like Mixolydian alters it from natural major. Dorian alters it from natural minor, and the note that gets changed is the sixth tone. So instead of having a half step in between 5 and 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we have a whole step between 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or you can play it there. Okay, now we have a half step in between 6 and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whole step to 6, half step to 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whole step to 6, half step to 7. Again, whole step to the root. Okay, so we've shifted the half step relationship. Still only two places where we have half steps in the scale, between 2 and 3 and between 6 and 7 now, instead of 5 and 6. And what that does is alters your chords in a couple of different ways. The main one, I would say, is to take the 4 chord and make it major. Okay, that note, the sixth tone, being shifted up a whole step or a half step there, in that scale, makes your 4 chord in the key a major chord, when previously in natural minor it was minor. So we used to have a little out of tune, it's alright. We used to have a minor 1 chord and minor 4 chord, minor 5 chord, minor 1, minor 4, minor 5. That's natural minor, okay? With Dorian, you're going to have a major 4 chord. Minor 1, major 4, minor 5, minor 1, major 4, minor 5. Okay, and you hear this all over the place. This is a very common sound, especially in like kind of minor blues or funk music or classic. I mean, Pink Floyd loves to do this sort of thing all the time. So, you know, I don't know if it's the right key, but you'd have like breathe in the air, don't be afraid to care, right? That entire song, almost, is minor 1, major 4. Yeah? And then, of course, you have Shine On You Crazy Diamond, whose root is G, but it has an E natural in it. That right there is the raised sixth, that kind of ringy note that hangs out. That top note is the raised sixth. So Pink Floyd loves this sound. David Gilmour loves this sound. You also hear that sound in the Uptown Funk tune. It's more relatively recent. It's kind of fairly common. So you've got like minor 1, and then it's a dominant chord built on 4, but a dominant chord's fundamental triad is major. Okay, so we got minor 1, major 4, and then they make it into a dominant chord because it's a funk tune. Okay, very common sound. So the 4 chord being major is probably the main thing that the main takeaway from playing in the Dorian mode. That raised sixth. It also causes you to have a minor chord built on 2, whereas the 2 chord in natural minor was diminished. Now we do not have a diminished chord built on 2 anymore. We have a minor chord built on 2. It's probably not going to mean as much to you as the major 4 chord, but you probably run into it somewhere here and there. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, let's lay something down and a little progression based off of that. I'm going to keep it super simple. Probably just 1 and major 4, minor 1, major 4, with, you know, the lowered 7th in there, coming back up to 1, and then we will play over it and see what we can come up with, just to listen to it. And once again, we'll get into the scale, some things that you can do with it, some pentatonics, some ways that you can arrange the notes a little bit later. Again, we're just going for sound mostly here. So let's see if we can do this. D minor, 1 to minor 1 to major 4, mostly. Here we go. 1, 2, 4. Alright, so that's what we're going to play over. Here we go. Give you something melodic to listen to. Okay, some ideas there. A lot of it based around the minor pentatonic, and then kind of throwing in that major six to just kind of give that Dorian flavor. It just brightens things up a little bit. It's not so somber and like, you know. It sounds really melancholy to me, really dark and sad. That's the flatted six, right? That's the natural minor six. Dorian, it's got that brightness to it a little bit. Right. Okay. Very familiar sound. Pretty commonly used. And yeah, go out there, take a look around, see if you can hear some Dorian, play around with that scale. And we will continue on, probably look at Lydian next. So until then, cheers.